Okay, hello everybody. Once again, we're going to look at writing, and I wanted to have a good example of what I consider to be a great essay. And this is from a different student. This is from a young lady living in Germany, but from Krasnodar. And this essay was brilliant. I'm going to show you another essay and compare it, which isn't as good. But of course, that's the way it goes. Some essays are great and some essays have a few mistakes in them. Now, this is the question at the top in bold, and I want you to all see that there is a mistake in the question. It should be an ideal opportunity. And this is something to bear in mind if you go online and look for IELTS questions and CPE questions and that kind of thing. Quite often you do see mistakes in the question. So don't think that everything is perfect online. It's not. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? And certainly I'm sure there were mistakes on my website, for example, somewhere. So there is a mistake in the question. Let's quickly read the question. Some people believe that international sporting events are an ideal opportunity to show the world the qualities of the hosting nation. Others believe that these events are mainly a large, unjustifiable expense. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So most of this I'm just going to be able to read because it's such a well-written essay. So global athletic events such as the Olympics, the World Cup, the Extreme Games. Now I have added a comma there because I consider this an interrupting prepositional phrase, this part. It's an interrupting prepositional phrase, so we need a comma after global athletic events. Such as the Olympics, the World Cup, the Extreme Games, and even the American Super Bowl are incredible opportunities for countries. Yeah, so I've got this comma here and this comma here because the main clause is global athletic events are incredible opportunities for countries, and the bit in the middle is the interrupting prepositional phrase. These iconic spectacles can provide a country with an economic avalanche of benefits or expose it to a public relations disaster. So you've got good parallel structure, can provide blah, 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 or expose blah, blah, blah. And that's why that sentence reads really well. Also, some great vocabulary, an economic avalanche of benefits. I liked that. I thought there was some really natural English in this essay. This essay will look at both points using Russia and the United Kingdom as examples. So this is a good example of how you've got to write better than a native. And this is better than a native. This is brilliant. So firstly, it's important to bear in mind that simply hosting the event and having the world's media attention cannot guarantee a positive promotional campaign. Yeah, I changed this to a media campaign. Yeah, a positive media campaign, to be really specific. And I think that's much better than a positive promotion or just positive promotion. It makes it really clear that we're talking about media. And notice again that she's used really good parallel structure. Yeah, that's simply hosting blah, blah, blah and having blah, blah, blah. That's why it sounds good. Nice one. Well done. So this is because, comma, although the country is receiving enormous amounts of publicity, she's got this comma in, well done. So this is an interrupting subordinate clause. Subordinate clauses that start with though, although, even though, they very often contrast. And for this reason, it's a good idea to put them in commas. You'll normally see them in commas in books. Do have a look for this. When you have a look at the word although, or though, or even though, they're subordinating conjunctions that are very often found next to commas. So although the country is receiving enormous amounts of publicity, the media will often report controversial news as well. And again, excellent language here. Yeah, enormous amounts of publicity is good. Report controversial news is good. The only thing which isn't good is the as at the end. We don't need that, do we? We only say as well as and then have something else, some noun there or some clause. When you haven't got anything there and you just mean in addition, as well, then you just leave it as well. Okay, good morning to Mary and good morning to Shivendra from India. Take the Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, for example. The media spotlight is shining bright on the athletes, but also highlighting the polemic legislation regarding homosexuality. Therefore, despite the international recognition to be gained, the country can also face a possible backlash. What an excellent paragraph. There's good content. It's all totally relevant. It's original, yeah, and it has concrete examples, yeah, of the Winter Olympics in Sochi. So all of this is excellent content, and I can't see any mistakes in that paragraph. And just excellent vocabulary, like a possible backlash, yeah, polemic legislation. I don't think you'd hear many natives using such advanced vocabulary, but it's good. It's really good. And notice we've got is shining, blah, 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 but also highlighting. You see the parallel structure? Excellent. Nice one. Okay, secondly, the expense of building the large infrastructures necessary to hold these events can dwarf the benefits. Excellent vocabulary again. Unless they are fully amortized afterwards. Okay, excellent. It's all very good economics vocabulary. This is largely due to the fact that stadiums, Olympic parks, ski runs are expensive to construct and undertake large capital expenditure, often by the public sector. So this is a really good paragraph. And look at the wonderful vocabulary, largely due to the fact that sounds very natural to me. Large capital expenditure sounds great for an economics essay. Okay, in the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, so again, concrete examples. In 2002, the council commissioned a stadium for athletic events, which was later adapted and sold to the local preeminent football club, Manchester City. What great vocabulary again, local preeminent football club. And we've got a nice A positive at the end here. You know, I like A positives, yeah. Manchester City, they are the local preeminent football club. And we've got the comma, as is necessary. Therefore, with proper, fair, economic management of such buildings and facilities, the cost can be recuperated. This is the main clause. It's coming right at the end of some incomplete thoughts. So let's get a comma in there. Yeah. And these are three adjectives. And I think you can say the proper, fair, and I took out this comma because proper and fair are equal coordinate adjectives. It's fair and it's proper. It's proper and it's fair. But economic management, that economic is joined to management. It can't be put, you can't say the economic proper fair management. You have to say the proper fair economic management or the fair proper economic management. So the first two adjectives are coordinate adjectives. The last one is a cumulative adjective. And so we keep that without the comma. We don't need the comma there. Okay, to conclude, a host city or nation has a lot to gain from these events, but only if they are economically administered correctly, and only if, I've just added this just now, I didn't spot it in the first one, but I do think this sounds better with the only if repeated. It's just because you've got quite a long clause there, they are administered correctly, and so it helps the reader, it reminds the reader that you're giving two only ifs, you're giving two conditions, yeah, that these are great things, sporting events, and you've got a lot to gain from them, but only if X and only if Y. And I think that sounds nicer, personally. I don't want to say it's a mistake, this one, and I wouldn't mark it down for not putting in the only if, certainly not. But I think it makes it stronger, it makes it clearer, and so I recommend putting it in. But still, a wonderful ending, and I wanted to use this as a great example of a fantastic essay. Now, does anybody have any questions about that essay, about this one here? So, hi, mysterious person. Is backlash supposed to be a countable or non-countable word? A backlash, so it can be, imagine it can be both. Let's have a look at the sentence with backlash. They can also face a possible backlash. Yeah, you can talk about a backlash, you certainly can. I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to put it onto the other one now. So I think I've got to start screen sharing traditional schooling now. Okay, so this is from exactly the same student, and it's good to see that even wonderful students like that can write an essay like the one we've just looked at, that they still make mistakes. We all do, and this is an essay which is not as strong. Yeah, the first essay, I'm sure you'll all agree, looking at the two, the first essay was the strong one, and this one is not as strong. Perhaps it was done under time pressure. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm not sure if the student was doing this as though it was the exam. But let's have a look at this one. So traditional schooling is out of date, boring, and stifles a child's natural talents. Okay, there should be a full stop here. It's another mistake. They're running together two main clauses here. So that's called a comma splice. So do be aware that there are mistakes in the questions. Various professionals have pushed for an education revolution. Are there alternatives in the education system? Is traditional education doing more harm than good? Now, I changed a few parts in the first paragraph, even though they're not really grammatical mistakes. It's more about the content. The student started with, the conventional methods of learning are considered to be tedious and outdated. They cannot foster the full development of pupils' innate abilities. This essay disagrees with this view. And I found that a bit jarring to say, you know, that this is the case and this is the case, and this essay disagrees that this is the case. I found that a little bit odd. And I think you should, if you're going to do this, if you're going to say the opposite side of the argument, the side of the argument that you're going to be arguing against, why not start with some argue that? And it just makes it clear that you don't argue that, but some argue that, yeah? So some argue that conventional methods of learning are tedious and outdated. Now, I've got rid of are considered to be, simply because it's redundant. And if you can get rid of it and it doesn't change the meaning in any kind of way, sometimes it's worth getting rid of it. So just to make the essay more concise, yeah, and so are tedious and outdated. And then I've put a semicolon to make sure we don't make the same comma splice mistake that the question made. Semicolon, and we need a subject. They cannot foster the full development of pupils' innate abilities. This essay disagrees with the view, I've changed this to the view, that the current pedagogy is outmoded and might even be harmful to young people. Now, can anyone tell us even why I've put the even, why I've changed the position of the even from here to here? Who's been watching these classes? Who knows why we've moved that even, or why I have moved that even to one place earlier in the sentence? And I do this with most essays that I receive. I get this kind of mistake. Who knows what this kind of mistake is? I'll be impressed if somebody is already ready to type it into the commentary, into the comments, rather. Well, I'll tell you, because nobody's jumping on it. It's, of course, the idea here that even is an adverb. And where do we put adverbs? Adverb position, we've discussed quite a lot recently. Adverbs must go between the first and second verb when there's a chain of verbs. There is an exception. And I was talking to a student recently, I was talking to Marsha recently, and we were discussing the fact that it's not just probably, actually. Do you remember in a previous class I said that probably, when you've got a negative modal verb, probably goes before it. So if you say, I will probably come, yeah, it goes up between the will and the come, but I probably won't come. And a few other adverbs are exactly the same, and they all deal with probability. Yeah, these adverbs, you want to put them before negative modal verbs. So it's probably, definitely as well is the same. And I didn't mention that in the last class, so I'll quickly mention it. Probably, definitely, certainly, and possibly. Notice these are all about possibilities, possibly. They're all about possibilities. And so you'd say, I possibly won't come, I definitely won't come, I certainly won't come. All of these go before the negative modal. So it's not just probably. So it was Marsha that brought that to my attention. So thank you, Marsha. I do appreciate that. Some adverbs don't follow the same rules as others, and they're the four ones I want you to remember as exceptions. They go before the modal negative modal verbs, but they go in the normal position, like might even be, might probably be, might possibly be, might certainly be, if the modal isn't negative, and this one isn't negative. Okay, let's keep going because I'm running out of time. I can't do more than 20 minutes. Over the years, all processes in our world become better. Yeah, I thought this was better than have a term for the better, have a term for the better, or have a term for the worse. They are good idiomatic expressions, but it's when somebody changes from an ordinary position to a better one, or an ordinary position to a worse one. It's not really the same as become better, because that's what we would say for a gradual process of improvement, and not have a term for the better, which only happens once. So become better sounds better here, or get better. So the same can be said of the education system. I didn't doesn't pass by. It didn't sound natural to me or idiomatic, so I've just changed it. The same can be said of the education system. Now, the next sentence shows why it's important to understand what a subordinating conjunction is and what it does. Subordinating conjunctions join subordinate clauses to main clauses. But my problem with this sentence is that there is no main clause here. We've got, though there are some modern approaches to teaching that disclose pupils' talents and faculties by allowing children to choose the very subjects they like and to evaluate the works too highly, where's the main clause? And so we don't have a main clause here, and that's going to cost you marks. Please don't do this. Please be careful with your conjunctions, with your subordinating conjunctions. If you use them at the start of a sentence, there needs to be a main clause somewhere. Yeah, it's not it can be an adverb though, it can be, but it's not in this one. It's being used like a subordinating conjunction, but still it's not being used correct because there's no main clause. I got rid of "are considered to be" for the same reason I got rid of "this considered to be." If you can get rid of it, do. Yeah, if it doesn't make any difference to the meaning, get rid of it. That's my advice. It just makes your essay more concise. You've got more time to spend better things because it's redundant. Don't call something new and modern together, or it seems a little bit unnecessary to me that a new approach is a modern approach, and so you're saying the same thing twice. However, giving them more freedom to choose what they want does not mean that it might indeed be good. So you can see the same thing again here as might even be, might indeed be. Put the adverb between the modal verb and the next one. Yeah, between the first two verbs, I think is the best way to understand it. As young people are expected not to get the whole picture of what they do enjoy. To get the picture, to get the whole picture means to understand something fully, but I didn't really think it worked here, guys. I don't really think it was appropriate. I don't really see what it means. Yeah, that giving them the freedom to choose what they want does not mean that they're expected to get the whole picture. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on here, and I put this question mark in to show that this it isn't clear. What does this pronoun refer to? What might indeed be good? What they want does not mean that. However, giving them more freedom to choose what they want does not mean that I suppose the process of giving them what they want might indeed be good. But it was a little bit confusing because the process that I think this would work better if you're choosing it to refer to a noun phrase, to a verb phrase, like giving them more freedom to choose what they want. Does not mean that giving them the freedom to choose what they want might indeed be good, as young people are expected not to get the whole picture of what they do enjoy. That was obscure to me. I didn't really understand the point. So while traditional education implies that all subjects are core, well, does it? I mean, the way I understand it is that the core subjects in most countries are your own language, mathematics, and maybe another language. And so it sounded strange to me to say all subjects are core subjects, because I don't think they are, and remember that in traditional education, we might be talking about a classical education where Greek and Latin were the core subjects, or, we might be talking about something completely different. It's important to be specific and careful so that the reader understands exactly what you mean. So, and have to be studied by all pupils. Right, I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to finish in a minute, so I'm going to go straight down to the last few mistakes. The modern way of evaluating young people and not creating competition might not give the same level, the same extent, the same degree of progress, and not a good enough progress. That's certainly not right. The same level, extent, degree of progress as did traditional schooling. Yeah, because we're trying to make sure we're parallel here in the comparison. And so the modern way of blah, 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 might not give the same level of progress as gave traditional schooling. And then it's all nice, it's all parallel. Okay, I'm going to have to stop in a second, guys, and then start again. In fact, I'll do it right now. I'll stop it right now. Hold on, let me just check you've been able to see all of that. So I'll stop it right now and then start again, and stick around, and I'll be here.